The lack of foresight from the Raptors front office has left them in a very perilous situation, and this situation is only going to become even worse as we get into the offseason, leaving us with an impossible decision to make. So in today's video, we reveal what that decision is going to be and why Raptors fans need to brace themselves for some terrible news. Let's get into it. Welcome NBA and Raptors fans. This is Amateur Hour Sports, your source for dedicated Toronto Raptors content at least 3 or 4 times a week on YouTube. So if that is of interest to you and you want to see more of these videos, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You can help us on a road to 9,000 subscribers and keep up to date with all of those great Raptors videos coming your way. But our video today, another impossible decision by the Raptors. And it's another one where, we've had this conversation before. The conversation has been delayed. I think it's been delayed, rightfully so, but the time to really make that final cut, that final decision is really starting to happen for the Raptors, and it's really showcasing why we need to make it. Over these last 3 games, the Raptors have lost 3 games in a row. They've lost the 2 worst teams in the league, in the Detroit Pistons and the Orlando Magic record-wise, and they lost to the Cavs yesterday. There wasn't really blowouts anywhere, but all 3 games, the Raptors were losing throughout, and it really never felt like they had any sort of control in those games. They were beaten pretty comfortably in the end, but for like a fake last 3-minute comeback where they make the score a little bit closer just to kind of make it interesting, but nothing really happens in the end. It's been 3 really tough losses to watch for Toronto Raptors fans, and of course, it is because of the injuries. OG Anunoby is out, which is a big trouble for our defense, and Fred VanVleet is out, which is a trouble for our offense, who already lacks a lot of floor spacing, and with Fred VanVleet out, that's like half of your floor spacing duo of VanVleet and Gary Trent out. And the way Gary Trent's been playing over the last 3 games, he kind of may as well be out because he's not really hitting any of his shots. And, we're really hoping he bounces out of that funk really, really soon. But it's highlighting this stretch of games right now that the Raptors have absolutely no depth with their team. There is no depth here. And when Fred VanVleet is out and Gary Trent, we have to fully rely on just him to give us the floor spacing we need, and he's not doing it. There's nobody else who's really providing that for us. Malachi Flynn gave us a little bit of that outside game and was playing pretty well, but now he is out indefinitely as well. The depth of this team is a problem. And I said in a video a couple of weeks ago that the front office failed the Raptors by not addressing the true issues with this team and instead traded a first-round pick to get Thaddeus Young. And, we only moved down 10 to 15 spots, and that's not that big of a difference, but it is. That could be the difference between finding a player that really helps out your team and a project player who you don't really know how good he's going to get. Let's take the 2020 NBA entry draft. Malachi Flynn goes 29th overall. We move up 8 spots, not 10 or 15, 8 spots. You can draft Tyrese Maxey 21st overall. That is the difference that amount of space can make. So I'd rather have that first round pick because, Thaddeus Young isn't helping out the team a ton. But anyways, the problem that needs to be addressed is the depth issues. The Raptors are going into the next offseason with not a lot of cap space to work with, and the impending free agency of possibly Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent looming in the near future. Fred VanVleet, we may want to give an extension to. Gary Trent Jr. could fit into that same category. Gary Trent has a player option at the end of next season, and Fred VanVleet also has something looming like that. So we're in a tough spot. We're in a tough spot financially. It could be even tougher having to give those extensions. So the Raptors need to find a way to address the depth issues because the starting lineup, there's really no problem. That 8-game winning streak was a testament to the talent of this team with those 5 players involved, the 5 starters, Siakam, VanVleet, Barnes, Anunoby, and Gary Trent Jr. That's a formidable starting 5. That's one of the best starting 5s in the NBA. It's just there's not enough on the bench to supplement that to get the Raptors anything above a current playing position. And I said in so many videos during the All-Star break, if this team can stay healthy, they are going to be a threat. They're going to maintain this position as like the 7th or 8th seed with the possibility of moving up if they stay healthy. Spoiler, they have not stayed healthy, and we are kind of seeing the deficiencies with this team as a result. So in order to address the severe depth issues, the severe lack of floor spacing, the lack of a true center, a trade is going to be made because the free agent market, number one, even if we were an attractive free agent destination, which just unfortunately, sadly, we are not. Even if we were that attractive free agent destination, we just don't really have the financial capabilities to get the players we need. We obviously aren't going to really be active in the free agent market as a result. Trades are going to happen. And the bench pieces, I'm sorry, trading those guys is just not really going to really address the deficiencies with this team. So the impossible decision is one of those 5 starters is going to get traded if this team is going to be successful. And it's a sad reality to kind of think about, like losing any of those 5 guys. I don't want to trade any of them, but you have to be able to pick one of them because the Raptors, again, if they stick with that starting 5, like they are going to be so limited with what they can do based on the fact they just don't have the bench capabilities. And they can't really fill out the roster with the draft because, well, they don't have that first round pick anymore. And that was a mistake, but it's a mistake that we are going to have to live with at this point. So with that starting 5, you got to find one to trade. That player needs to get traded to address the depth issues. Go and get the depth needed to fill out the roster. Make a proper 8 or 9 man roster. There are certain players, that I think I can live with off the bench. I think Precious Achiuwa is going to grow into a starting center. I think that Boucher still gives you something good enough off the bench to have him there. But other than that, I really think that it should be a free-for-all for who gets those positions. But now we have to decide in this video which of those 5 should get traded. Looking at the Untouchable, and in the offseason, I was saying that it was OG Anunoby. It's not him anymore. The Untouchable of those 5 is Scottie Barnes. You are absolutely 100% not trading Scottie Barnes. We're not even going to entertain that discussion. So let's move on to the other 4 players. Last offseason, I think that the most likely player to get traded out of that core was Pascal Siakam. Now, based on the way he's playing, operating at what should have been an all-star level and a near all-NBA level, I don't think that's a guy you should trade. He is somebody who really can do everything for your team, and I think that's somebody that you should really build a team for. And maybe he's not quite that superstar level player, but we're not going to be able to get that superstar level player unless it's really in the draft, and we may have done it with Scottie Barnes. I wouldn't lose Siakam in this offseason, so that leaves us with OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, and Gary Trent Jr. OG Anunoby is a real good archetype for teams that really want to contend and be contenders. That 3-and-D player is like a very, very good 3-and-D player in the NBA, is somebody that you need to have on your team, a defensive specialist. And his absence right now is showing the true impact he has on the team. That's another player you cannot trade. So now we're down to VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. And discussions need to be had here. Gary Trent Jr. is very young. He's ascending. The contract is a little bit of a problem because I would say with about 60% certainty, so not really a majority of certainty here, but I would say with 60% certainty, Gary Trent Jr. is not going to take that player option when his contract is up at the end of next season to go one more year. I would say he's likelier to not take it. So that's a bit of a problem, and there are teams interested in him. You'd lose your floor spacing that you'd have to get back in a trade, but the same would happen if you were to lose Fred VanVleet in a trade. But that's, the heartbeat of the team. That's the leader. That's the general, the floor general that this team needs. And he was an all-star this year. That would be a very difficult player to trade as well. But the reality is you probably have to trade one of those 2. And if I had to choose between them, I'm likely going to go with Gary Trent Jr. Now, this is where we're going to recircle back to what I said in the start of the video. Raptors fans, you're going to have to brace yourself for a very heartbreaking trade and a very difficult decision that needs to be made by the front office. And people might be wondering right now why it hasn't been addressed. Why is the depth still a problem for the Raptors right now? I would say the only failure from the front office is committing to trading that first round pick, but not addressing the issues that this team clearly has. Coming into this season, the Raptors weren't really expected to make as many waves as they are currently making in the NBA. So this was supposed to be a season, a transition year, laying the foundation for the future where players were supposed to get better. I cared more about the players developing than I cared about the win-loss ultimately. And we're seeing a lot of development from the players. It's just we've had success. I thought we could have built on it, and the front office clearly did by trading that pick. The expectation for this team wasn't that we were going to be operating with this many wins at this point, vying for maybe a top 6 position. So now that we are here, we want to see better. But the start of the season, this was supposed to give us some more time to make this impossible decision. Which of those core guys do you trade? I think it was always known that financially, we won't be able to pay them all in the future. One of them is going to have to go, but it would have been really difficult last offseason to make that decision and commit to trading one of them without really seeing how they work together. Now we have the sample size. Now we've seen what the players can do. And now is the time to make the decision. If we have long-term aspirations of winning a championship, the reality is we are not going to be able to accomplish it with all 5 of these guys on the team. That is a financial thing more than anything. It is not like they don't work together. It's not that at all. I love all of these players, but financially you won't be able to afford it. And the depth just needs to be addressed with the team. And the sad reality is Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are going to have to make that decision. And if they don't and they think that they can succeed with these 5 guys in the team, I think it's going to be a vicious cycle of just not having enough coming off of your bench to really provide the team what they need to succeed. There's a possibility of striking early on in that second round with the Detroit second round pick and finding somebody that's going to really help your team. It's more likely than not going to be a player that, needs a little bit of time, but, there's a possibility there for the Raptors to, use their magic in the draft. It is unlikely, but it is possible. And, if I'm going with the probability here, the success rate of this team really does depend on trading one of these guys. And there's no right answer here. There's no right answer of the 5 guys. There's a wrong answer. Scotty Barnes getting traded would be the wrong answer. But other than that, there's no right answer in the question of which of the core guys do you trade here. There's always going to be an argument for one of them staying, but one of them has just simply got to go. And it's going to be a heartbreaking moment when it happens. So I'm letting you know right now, you got to brace yourself. So this isn't just an overreaction to a bad stretch for Gary Trent Jr. This isn't just, an overreaction to anything going on right now. This has been something I've thought of for a very long time. It's just now we're really understanding and seeing on court why this decision needs to be made. This team just has no depth. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on this in the comments down below. Which of the 5 do you think we should trade? Do you think that we just shouldn't trade any of them? I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. But that is it for me for today. Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy. Show your support, helps us reach some new viewers, and make sure you are subscribed to Amateur Hour Sports as well to keep up to date with all the great content coming your way. Let's get to 9,000 subscribers. I'll see you again next time for another video.